Alright, so no one is trying to limit your freedom of speech, everyone. According to CNN's Brian Stelter, they're just trying to limit your freedom of reach so no one can hear all the lies that you spew. Alright, that makes me feel a whole lot better, and I don't think that we'll have any issues with whoever we choose as the arbiter of truth. After all, Biden is a lot more reasonable than Trump. And we have people already advocating for the Biden administration to institute what I believe they called a truth czar, which is creepy. Why don't they just call it what it is? It would be a czar of censorship, which, if you didn't know, we already had a czar of censorship during World War II, set up by the federal government during an emergency, that emergency being World War II. Now, I would have disagreed with that then, of course, but World War II was a bit more threatening than what we've got going on now. And also, that office of censorship was shut down after World War II. And there were hopes that they would never need to do that again. But they were wrong, because now you see how the standards are set looser and looser, and abject hysteria becomes the expected response from you over smaller, more trivial things. A couple hundred Revolutionary War LARPers got inside the Capitol building. It was a terribly stupid thing for them to do. They clearly had no real plan to speak of, no strategy. None of them thought they were actually going to do anything. Your roster needs to be a few more people deep than just a couple hundred people in order to overthrow the United States government. I'm sure of that, and I'm sure they knew that too. But no, that's not what you're told it was. You're told it was an insurrection, attempted coup, despite the fact that most of them weren't even armed, and they were taking selfies in Nancy Pelosi's office and throwing some papers around, and they stole a laptop. Again, it was stupid and childish, but holy crap, are they trying to inflate how dangerous we should think this is. It was so dangerous we need a truth czar to figure everything out for us and decide what information we can and cannot consume. And I trust that system. Yeah, sure. Oh, and the people advocating for something like this, which I'm sure Brian Stelter would, you're advocating for something that is extremely likely to turn around and bite you back. You'd better hope that all your faith in Joe Biden pays off and he's a stellar, perfect president, which we all know he won't be, because if he isn't, and Republicans ever get back in power, which will happen again someday, well, now you've just given a truth czar to them. Now your sworn opposition gets to use the very thing that you created against you, which speaks to the ultimate futility of government and government actions and programs. But that's a lesson they all seem to refuse to learn. Anything you create can and will be used against you. That's like a law of politics, it seems. Now back to limiting freedom of reach, not freedom of speech, as Brian Stelter put it. Well, first off, that saying that freedom of speech is not freedom of reach is actually a few years old. That's something that's been said for a while. I believe a lot of conservatives used to say it when it came to explicit music, and leftists have also used it to oppose, supposedly racist things for the past few years. But it's a weird thing to say. Now, I'm not comparing Brian Stelter to Joseph Stalin. Even though I can't stand Brian Stelter, of course he's not. He's not anywhere near Joseph Stalin, of course. So that's not what I'm doing, but in the Soviet Union, if you said something that the state didn't like, you weren't always just killed. They wanted their free labor. Very often you were just sent to a labor camp in or around Siberia. Now, when you were in that labor camp, you could say whatever you want. You had freedom of speech there. It's just that no one that could do anything about anything could ever hear you, so your freedom of reach was severely hampered to the point where it didn't matter. It was all a moot point. What Brian Stelter said is about as ridiculous as saying prisoners are free because they have freedom of movement, because they can walk around their cells and they get to go out in the yard every day and run around a track and work out. It's simply a euphemistic way to say, hey, someone should be able to decide what you can and cannot hear and what you can and cannot say, because I don't want to hear what I don't like. He certainly can't be honest and say what we all know he's thinking, and that's that he wouldn't mind some office of censorship to be created in government to dictate what information you can and cannot consume. But anyway, that's all for now. Like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone you can. It's extraordinarily appreciated, and take it easy.